advocating for, if I understand correctly, is going the opposite way of what Trump and Heritage and Project 2025 have said they want to do. If I understand correctly, I'm sure you denounce Project 2025 on that basis, right?
I'm confused as to what it is that you're suggesting Project 2025 has to do with my question regarding the administrative state appointed by the President of the United States.
What's happening, everybody? David Pakman recently debated radio host Tony Kinnett on C-SPAN. You guys are going to love this one. It becomes clear very quickly that David Pakman has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. More than usual, if you can believe that. With that, let's watch David Pakman give a masterclass in saying so much while saying nothing at all. Look at his face. Let's go.
Tony, part of this Harvard youth poll says that confidence in public institutions continues to decline among young people. What do you think needs to happen to turn that around?
Well, a few things. Number one, these public institutions that have taken the trust of Americans and thrown it away need to be reevaluated in the amount of power that they hold. They need to be reevaluated in the structure with the unelected bureaucrats that staff a lot of these institutions. For example,
I was going to say, give us an example of.
Right. So, for example, in my field, the Department of Education, which has governed by fiat over the last several decades, quite honestly, that has basically written all of these very weird and not scientifically backed rules as far as academia and education is concerned for states to receive education funding, that creates, quite honestly, a spaghetti bowl of laws and regulations that intertwine with each other and create a large mess. So when the system goes wrong and creates some type of backdoor regulatory flag that you have to jump hoops through, you lose a lot of trust in that institution. And so there needs to be a reevaluation of this fourth branch of the government, this administrative state, this Wilsonian idea that has been an abysmal failure in the United States.
David, your thoughts on that, your reaction?
Yeah, I don't. It won't shock you that I have a sort of different perspective than Tony generally as far as institutions go. I think that if we zoom way out, and I know that this is not the sexiest conversation, if we zoom way out at a very basic level, the larger society gets, the more we need to some degree, have institutions and institutions to which we can delegate some authority. And unfortunately, if you don't have that, what you have is a non-functional society. And so my preference would be that we actually properly fund our institutions with the right amount of oversight. I mean, I'm the last person to say, hey, take some money, go do whatever, and let's talk to you in 15 or 20 years. But when it comes to the Department of Education or FDA or whatever institution, I think the only way forward as far as anthropology and group psychology and sociology and all of these sciences take us is we need these institutions, but we need proper and correct oversight. They need to be adequately funded. And that's really the starting point for what are the most successful countries and ways of organizing ourselves. I know it's very top level.
Okay, so I am an expert, probably the foremost expert, not only in translating David Pakman's bullshit, but I'm also an expert in David Pakman's demeanor and body language. David's demeanor in this interview is different than I've ever seen before. I'll explain what I mean. Some of the things that he says here are completely out of character. They're things I've never heard him say. And unfortunately, I've watched a lot of David Pakman. So any of you who think I'm super dumb, there's probably a good contributor to it. So I'm just going to go down the list basically of stuff that he said and translate where necessary or give you an interpretation as necessary. So first thing he says when he's asked to respond to Tony Kinnett, who gave a great answer, by the way, he says, all right, I won't do the voice so it doesn't get burnt out, but I won't do the impression. But so he says, it's no surprise that I disagree with Tony on this. He's never like that in interviews, never chuckles, really doesn't laugh unless he's insulting someone like that Dave Rubin one. So to me, the chuckle is nervousness. he usually doesn't use, I mean, it's all filler, but like filler not getting to his talking points. Like, it's not a surprise that I, don't agree with Tony, haha. I think it's like a little filibuster or trying to run out the clock on his time. Then as he goes into his answer, he says, I mean, it's not the sexiest topic. Never heard him say anything like that before. So here's, again, I am an expert in this, and I could be wrong, but I believe what that means is he has no concept of what the hell he's talking about or what the hell's going on in the entire conversation. And the key reason I believe that is his next comment after, it's not the sexiest topic or whatever he said. First thing he says is, at a high level, I almost did the impression there, at a high level. Okay, he's saying at a high level because they're talking about a macro level, Department of Education. So he goes into this high level talking point, word salad about, government institutions, obviously, because the right thinks they need to be heavily audited and the fat needs to be trimmed, which who the hell doesn't agree with that? But he wants to get into his narrative high level because he can't answer the questions that they're talking about on the actual topic. So he's diverting there. And at the end, so his whole answer, I mean, if you want to watch it again, his whole answer means nothing. But then he goes, at the end, he wraps it up with, I think from, I almost did the impression, I think from a science perspective, anthropology, sociology, psychology. I think he's doing this because I think the average viewer, if you're not a student of David Pakman, it sounds like he's making a point, but the average listener is like, oh, I really don't know a lot about this issue, so I guess he knows what he's talking about. Oh, and then he reiterates at the end. I mean, I know it's very top level, kind of condescending. If you didn't understand what I just said, even though I said absolutely nothing, it's because you're dumb. It's very high level. Your brains couldn't, you commoners couldn't understand this. And I'll get to the topic at hand eventually, but this is good because you ain't seen nothing yet.
But I think starting from a point of taking away power for the sake of taking it, or defunding for the sake of defunding, or Rick Perry just listing off departments famously and forgetting which ones that they were that he wanted to eliminate. I think it's backwards, and I think the global successes, the countries with the best business environments and the highest standards of living, show us that that's the right approach, not this, let's start closing down departments to some degree the way Project 2025 wants to do.
So the question that I would have for you is that in the same branch of concern that the executive branch of the United States is increasing its amount of authority unilaterally, that you would also increase the amount of authority with the executive branch through these bureaucratic organizations that answer to the executive branch? What authority needs to be delegated?
That's not at all what I said. No, certainly not. But my point, as I mentioned, was a broader one. Certainly nothing in what I said is give the president as an individual more power. And in fact, if we learned anything during the Trump presidency, it's that a lot of people on the left came around to what some on the right believed, which was, hey, maybe our checks and balances aren't strong enough. Maybe we don't want so much unrestricted power. But my point was a different one. I won't make it again to not bore the audience, but it has nothing to do with presidential power.
Who appoints the bureaucratic heads of those organizations?
The president appoints some of them, but as we know now, what Project 2025 wants to change is taking what are career bureaucrats that are non-political in their public-facing roles and actually make them even more.
Hey, if you like watching videos like these, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
Make even more of them political appointees. So it sounds like what you're advocating for, if I understand correctly, is going the opposite way of what Trump and Heritage and Project 2025 have said they want to do. If I understand correctly, I'm sure you denounce Project 2025 on that basis, right?
I'm confused as to what it is that you're suggesting Project 2025 has to do with my question regarding the administrative state appointed by the President of the United States.
I'm confused as to why you don't think that taking the...
If you're listening to David at all right now, look at Tony Kinnett's face. That's what your face should look like right now. This guy is based as hell, and he's thinking the same thing we are, like, what is he talking about?
the institutions that we have, which you say are already too politicized, and saying let's replace the career bureaucrats with overtly political actors, how that gets us any closer to the scenario you're drawing up?
I didn't say replace bureaucrats with different bureaucrats. I said reduce the number of bureaucrats. I don't know where you're getting like that I'm throwing down the Uno wild card and just changing the color of the bureaucrats. That's not it at all. I suggested that the administrative state, the Bismarckian progressivism that failed in Germany, is failing in the United States. And that by suggesting that the sciences are necessary, that anthropologically, psychologically, sociologically, that as society grows, we need to delegate authority is very, very weird and strangely 20th century dystopian.
All right, guys, we're going to go back to the calls. Mike is in Old Township, New.
At one point, David was like, I won't make the point again to not bore the audience. Since when has David Pakman ever not liked to hear himself talk? Again, he doesn't have a clue what his point is. Neither does Tony Kinnett. He somehow squeezed into a conversation about how bad our school systems are in the United States. He squeezed in Donald Trump and Project 2025. I'm telling you, I know I said I love that face Tony Kinnett was making. He was just, it was so authentic too. He was just like he was like, what? I don't know how to respond to this because it's so stupid. But besides just analyzing David Pakman, let's talk about the topic at hand real quick. So as far as our failing schools in the U.S., get rid of all the unelected bureaucrats, give every parent the option to use a voucher. Boom, solved. I've done it again. I've solved a major political problem or social problem or whatever, however you categorize it, in the United States. Anyway, back to David Pakman. Some of you in the comments say Pakman is a paid plant or like a shill for the DNC. And I completely see what you're saying. Here's the problem I have with that theory, though. Who the hell would choose that guy to be their paid shill? Like, wouldn't you look for like a good looking, at least kind of cool guy to be your, spokesperson guy? I know Democrats don't have a lot of those, but even they can do better than this, right? Maybe not. I don't know. Or maybe because they're Democrats, they're going for this like androgynous, it's Pat vibe. For our younger viewers, Pat was a character on Saturday Night Live in the 90s whose gag was you didn't know if it was a male or female. Back when SNL was good, you know what I mean? But I want to hear from you guys. If you want to chime in the comments about what I think the top question on my mind and probably what you would all most be interested in engaging in the comments is, how great was my analysis of David Pakman's language, body language, demeanor, like I said? I'm getting pretty good at this. So, if you think it was amazing, say that. If you think it was really good, say that, wow, best I've ever heard, or you're really talented. Any of those, let me know. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want to watch other videos of David Pakman talking nonsense and his opponent in the debate being completely bewildered, and click on one of the two videos that just popped up on your screen. Otherwise, I just want to tell all of you, thank you so much for a great 2024. Have a great New Year's Eve if you're out doing anything, enjoying with family or friends or both. And I said it before, but you all made my 2024 one of the best years that I can remember in a long time. And I'll never be able to put into words how much I appreciate all of you. And I hope that you all hear that, and that you don't think I'm just another dopey YouTuber spitting out platitudes. So happy early New Year. Have a great New Year's Eve. Please, please be safe, whatever you're doing. And the end.